And my name is Tom Donovan. I'm the general manager for the Variable Western Pennsylvania region. And this will be the final test, Wes. You got anything on your end, or?
My name is Wes Wood. I am the Director of Strategic Growth for the Eastern Division here at Veryable. So while Tom leads our efforts in your region of the state in Pennsylvania, I actually sit in I work on our regional team. So work all across the Northeast and the Southeast. Work with a lot of folks like Catalyst. So the goal today is to introduce this concept, what we're launching in Southwest Pennsylvania right now, but what we have had several years, a number of years of experience operating in other parts of the country. So quick background on who we are and what we do. So Veryable is a tech company. We were founded in 2016. Our headquarters are in Dallas, Texas. And ever since 2016, we've expanded all across the Southwest and the Southeastern portion of the U.S. A couple of years ago, we launched into the Midwest and the Northeast. And we are in the process of expanding up through the Northeast right now. So this slide, it says we're in 33 U.S. metros. This is changing like basically by the week at this point. I think we are now currently up to 40 with the launch of all of Pennsylvania over the past month or so. And then we've just launched into New York these past few weeks as well. Across that footprint, we've got over 1 million workers that have downloaded our mobile app that I'll talk about here in a second, all looking to work and engage with manufacturing and logistics companies. We've got over 4,000 businesses that have signed up on this platform across that footprint as well. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do, but just some high points, just the things to keep in mind at the beginning to dispel any preconceptions. We are not a staffing company. So we're a tech company. We provide a on-demand labor marketplace, but we are not a staffing company. We're not somebody where you can call us up and say, hey, I want 10 people to come work in my facility. We provide a tool for your operations leaders within your facilities to operate. It has some really cool implications. So it's a quick snapshot of our current footprint. Again, just launched into Pennsylvania and New York up here in the Northeast, as well as some additional expansion in the Midwest all over the past month or two. And we've got a wide array of companies that are using us. So we are niched entirely in the manufacturing and distribution sector. You're not going to find any hospitality, any retail, anything like that. These are all factories, warehouses. Those are the types of facilities we work with, and we've got companies that are very large using us, and we've got companies very small using us, really everything in between. So what we do, if you boiled it all down to 2 key points, is we unlock a new, large, and untapped labor pool that you as a manufacturer or distribution company can tap into, a labor pool that you're not currently able to tap into in any other way. There's this belief, and has been for a number of years, that there's a labor shortage for manufacturing and distribution companies. And I'm sure everybody on this call has probably felt it or dealt with it in one way or another. I'm here to tell you there is a new, large, untapped group where we have more than enough people to meet everyone's demand. And I'll talk about who that is in a second. And then the second thing we do is we say, okay, if we're going to give you access to this new type of labor, what's the most efficient and effective way to utilize that labor within your operations? How can it make the biggest impact to your bottom and your top line? All right, so first to talk a little bit about who is in this labor pool. I'd ask that you all go with me for a second on kind of a thought experiment. So if I told all of you, and I'm sure almost everyone on here is going to be a salaried employee, but if I said, hey, you're no longer salaried, we're going to now pay you hourly. You're going to be paid by the hour, and we're going to let you pick however many hours you want to work. You could work 5 hours, you could work 80 hours. We're going to let you pick how many hours you work based on your life circumstances. Maybe work-life balance is super important. Maybe you've got small kids, that type of thing. Maybe you just want to go out there and make as much money as possible. It's completely up to you. If you pose that question to everybody that is qualified and interested in working in your company, you get a wide array of answers. You wouldn't get one cookie cutter answer. You get people that would say, I'm retired, maybe I'd want to work 5 hours a week, and you'd get that 20-year-old that just wants the money and wants to work 80 hours. And so the distribution curve of answers might look something like this. You'd have a lot of people in the middle, right around that 40-hour mark, but you get these tail ends of the distribution curve that would be on those fringes as well. So what we get from labor capacity under the traditional model, we say, okay, we're going to do these 40-hour work weeks, and we're basically going to engage this amount of the labor potential in your community, right? You get 40 hours times the number of people that are willing to work that 40 hours. But what you find out is you've got these two ends of the distribution curve that are left out in the cold. So you've got people on the left that are not willing to work 40. They wanted to work 8, and they're definitely not going to shift their life around to work 40. And then you've got people on the right end that are going to work 40. They are going to work for you, but they would work more if you would allow them to work more, right? But you're just going to give them the 40. And then you've got that group in the middle that are burnt out on the left end of that curve. So these are folks that maybe their ideal number is like 35 hours a week, and they'll make 40 work because that's the option given to them, but they'd really rather work 35 if they could make it work. So they're going to suck it up. So this is what a traditional normal state looks like. Now, what happens if your demand goes up, right? Like now you've got to make more product, your company needs to expand, but as everyone's aware, our traditional labor pools are kind of tapped out. Population is not growing as it used to. We've kind of run out of additional labor pools of people to tap into. And we've pushed, people working farther and farther into retirement. And there's a lot of great programs out there trying to get kids oriented towards manufacturing, trying to attract people from other parts of the country to move to your part of the country. But the scale of the gap between what companies need to expand and what is available is too great for any of those things to solve in and of themselves. So what happens is we need to get more out of the workers we have, right? So we force overtime. And let's say we bump them up to 50 hours a week. And now this is what the curve looks like. So the people's lives haven't changed. Their answers to how many hours they want to work is still the same, but now we're asking more of them. And so now the curve looks something like this, where you've got more people that are working more than what they want. So you've got a greater portion of your workforce that's burnt out, potentially going to churn. But you still have these two pockets on the tail end of the spectrum of people that would want to work more than 50 and people that they're leaving out altogether. And so what happens is we churn those people that are to the left of your spectrum, and you end up with a greater number of people that are outside of the workforce because they can't handle that 50 hours a week, that forced overtime. Now you're still getting higher production levels than what you were getting before. You're getting more labor hours, but you're leaving more people out in the cold. And at the same time, you're still leaving those two ends of the spectrum on the table. You're not engaging them at all. So what we do is we give you the ability to tap into those two pockets. And if we're able to give you people that don't want to work 40 hours a week, but want to work some other amount for you, then the question becomes, what's the most effective way to integrate them into your operations? And that answer is going to look different for every company. But by and large, what most companies do is they look at their average demand coming through their facility. They look at the average headcount that they need to accomplish that demand, and that's what they staff their full-time employee headcount to. If on average I need 100 people, then I'm going to go hire 100 full-time employees. And sometimes it's going to be a high demand, and maybe I need 110 people's worth of work, and so then I'll force some overtime. And sometimes I'll only need 90 people's worth of work, and so I'm not going to get rid of 10 people because I'm going to need them the next day or the day after, whenever demand picks back up. But for that day my demand is down, I'm going to have 10 people on my books in my factory that I don't really need that day. And we've all just kind of accepted this. That's kind of the status quo, right? We're shooting to the average, and on high demand days we're going to force overtime, or we're going to eat that cost, and on low demand times we're going to eat that cost of lost productivity. But this is assuming we can hit that average headcount, right? And right now, today, a lot of companies can't even hit that average headcount. And so, it has a lot of implications to this kind of standard model that, again, we've just kind of gotten used to. You're missing revenue because you're not able to take on short-term projects, short-term contracts, right? because you can't guarantee that you're going to have the demand down the road. It can change your growth, and that way creates longer backlog and lead times, and you're forced to rely on staffing companies or other folks to try and solve what is really a day-to-day flexibility issue. The way our model works is we've got this on-demand labor marketplace that I kind of touched on a little bit ago, and it's got two sides to this marketplace. You've got the operators, the workers, and you've got the companies, the business users on the other end. So on the company side, they're going to create a short-term work opportunity, and they're going to post it to the marketplace. So we call these short-term opportunities ops for short. You can think of that kind of like a shift, an individual allotted amount of time. It's typically one day, it's typically one shift. You're going to say, hey, today's Thursday. On Saturday, I need 5 production associates. I want to pay them $16 an hour. I want them to show up at 7 a.m. and leave at 3 p.m. You outline the basic parameters of what it is you want them to do, and you're going to post that to the marketplace. On the other side, on the operator side, so we've got, again, well over 1 million people across our footprint that have downloaded our mobile app. They've all submitted to a background check. They've self-identified what skills they have and the level of proficiency they have at those skills. Again, all relevant to manufacturing and logistics. And then they get access to this platform. So when you post out that you need 5 people on Saturday, they're going to see that. They're going to see that a company down the street from them is looking for 5 people only for Saturday, only for this amount of time. They're going to see what the skill sets are, and they're going to raise their hand and bid, right? So they're going to say, if you're offering $16 an hour, let's say for easy math, $150 for a shift for an op, they're going to say, hey, I'm available. I'm willing to come in for that $150. Now, they have the option to bid high or low. They could say, I wouldn't do it for 150. How about 160? Or they could underbid. There could be a lot of people bidding on this. And so they may say, well, maybe I want to offer to do it for 140. But at the end of the day, you as the company get to see all of those bids that come in, and you can see their background. So I saw the question come in about drug screens. We do not mandate that everyone goes through a drug screen. And there's a whole host of reasons that I can get into and why we don't mandate that. But we do show companies a little snapshot of who that person is, key metrics on their past performance, and then badges and certifications. So if they have gone through a drug screen and we verified that, they'll have that drug screen badge. So if you wanted, you could only look for people that are drug screened, or you could drug screen them when they show up. There's a variety of ways we could tackle that. But all of these folks that bid, they are bidding as 1099 contractors, right? They're not coming in as full-time employees. There's a lot of implications to that. One, it's not going to go on your insurance. It's not going to count against you as a drug-free workplace or anything like that. This would be like any other 1099 contractor that you brought into your facility that you probably aren't drug testing every time you bring into your facility. They are all going to be covered under our insurance. So we carry several layers of insurance. We cover kind of the 1099 equivalent of workers' comp. That covers them if anything happens. We cover general liability if they damage any equipment. A variety of different layers of risk mitigation there. So going back to the overall model, so a company is going to see all these people that bid. They're going to get that quick snapshot, see certifications, badges. They're going to see their reliability. How confident are we that they're going to show up when they said they're going to show up? We're going to see how many ops they've done in the past, where they've done them, and then the company is going to pick who they want to come in. Or they can kind of set the basic parameters and let our autofill option automatically pick the best candidate. So on Saturday, the 5 people you pick, they come in and they show up, they do the work that's requested, and they go home. At the end of that op, that operations manager, who's the one posting the op, by the way, they're going to rate that person on a 0 to 5 star scale. Just like you would rate an Uber driver or somebody like that, they're all going to get rated on every single op, and that's part of what translates into those metrics that we share on their kind of scorecard for future engagements. And the whole idea is that over time, especially during these first 4 to 6 weeks, a company is going to go through this process where they're going to sort through people from the general population, and they're going to find people they really like. So if today's your first day posting and you wanted those 5 people to come in on Saturday, Out of those 5, you might only like 3. Let's say one person was a no-show, one person just had a bad attitude, but 3 people you liked. Those people you're going to rate 4 or 5 stars, and you're going to move them into what we call your labor pool. This becomes kind of your company-specific favorites list of workers. It's like going on Uber, and instead of just getting a random Uber driver, you're going to get your 5 best Uber drivers that are going to see when you need a ride. And not all of them are going to be working at any given point in time, but if you identify enough of your favorite drivers, odds are somebody's going to be available when you need them. That's how this labor pool works. So if at most you need, let's say, 10 people a day, you want to identify maybe 40 people that you really like and add them to your labor pool. And then once you've gotten that number up to a sufficient size, you can really rely on that labor pool for all of your demand needs going forward. You don't need to grab people from the general population all that often. And now you're not getting random people in your facility. You're getting people that have, passed the test of having the work ethic you're looking for. And now they've got some training in your facility, right? Now they're not new people coming in. It's Bob. Bob, but Bob only works there, instead of working there 5 days a week, like your full-time employees, Bob might work there 2 days a week, or every other week, something like that, right? So it becomes this kind of known, flexible extension of your full-time workforce that you can flex in and out of your operations on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you are always operating at the precise amount of labor capacity that you need, never over and never under. So again, just to kind of reiterate, what we're offering is a marketplace. We are not a staffing company. You don't call us and say you want 5 people, you post it to the marketplace. So we are not going to get in the way. We're not going to tell you how much you're going to pay these people. We're not going to there's no conversion fee if you want to hire these people full time. We're simply providing the platform that allows you to tap into those those 2 ends of the distribution curve. These large number of people that want to work in that flexible capacity, but up until now haven't really had the ability to do so. And there's a large number of people. I mentioned the sheer numbers, but in terms of ratios across our footprint, we see on average between 6 and 8 people bidding on every 1 posted opportunity. So it allows you to kind of be picky and bring in the folks that you really like and build that labor pool of high quality performers. And it's not, because we're not a staffing company, it's not the same labor pool that a staffing company is dealing with. Typically a staffing company is operating as an extension of your HR team, right? They're filling that pipeline, they're performing some of that vetting process, that providing that temp to perm capability. And that's all valid. That's all useful, but that's not what we are doing. We're providing you access to folks that aren't necessarily looking for a 40-hour-a-week full-time job. If they wanted that, honestly, they could probably already have that today, right? These are people that need flexibility. It might be a mother whose childcare is only several days a week, or not consistent, right? And they're only going to know a couple days out if they're going to have that childcare. Because of that, our operator base is 52% female. So if you compare that to the 28% in the rest of the manufacturing workforce, you start to see where these people are coming from. So again, and 2/3 of the people on our platform on the operator side do not use us as a full-time source of income. They've got maybe a full-time job down the road or a part-time job doing something else, and they use us as supplemental income. 1/3 of the people that use our platform do use us as a full-time source of income. So they'll piece together, a 5-day work week, maybe between 3 different companies. They'll take their 3 favorite companies on the platform and bounce back and forth between them, wherever the demand is on any given day. But they get the flexibility, the variety of working at different companies, first of all, but they also get the flexibility. If they want to take off on vacation next week, they don't have to request time off. They're just not going to take up an off that week. So as far as potential users go on the company side, to help you identify if maybe you're a good fit or a company is a good fit, again, we're strictly manufacturing and supply chain. So if you're a construction company or somebody like that and you come to us, we're going to turn you down. We turn down actually probably the majority of companies that sign up organically through our website, our homepage. We have to turn away because they're not niched in manufacturing and distribution. This is also, I touched on it earlier, but this is the end user for this platform, our ops managers. It's not HR, believe it or not. Obviously, we have to talk to HR. We have to make sure they're on board with this, with integrating this into their labor strategy. But the end user for this tool is that ops manager that has direct line of sight on what their demand is on a day-by-day basis. They can pull up their mobile app on the shop floor and say, hey, on Wednesday, I'm going to be 2 people short. Let me just post for 2 people and get that filled. And again, this works for large companies. It also works for small companies that need to somehow figure out how to get those economies of scale for their labor capacity. The large companies have the benefit of having with such a robust system, but we've got companies that have 3 full-time employees, and they'll scale anywhere from having 3 people on any given day to having 15 people on any given day through our platform. And again, not carrying any of those costs over when they don't need them. So obviously, highest impacts for us with companies is going to be companies that have high volatility or seasonality, high amounts of turnover, forced overtime. Any of you are offering hiring bonuses, referral bonuses, trying to get people in the door, or put a plug in your turnover issues. Oftentimes we can be a huge asset in those situations. I just had a question come in. How many operators time in the Pittsburgh market? Well, funny you should ask. You guys are about to talk about the Pittsburgh market. So like I said, we are in something like 40 cities as of today, and they range in age from having just launched a couple weeks ago to being, 6 years old or so. And so maturity of the market definitely makes an impact on a lot of our key metrics. So if we look at Pittsburgh right now, it was launched in October. We only have 2 active companies, and we've got between 200 and 300 active operators. But that's up 40% just since October, right? This scales very rapidly, believe it or not. And believe it or not, finding people is not even something we hardly even think about. We've got Veryable itself has over 200 employees, and I think our team of people focused on operator attraction is like 2 people, right? That is not our problem, finding operators. Our issue is getting companies to consistently post. Once they do that, everything else takes care of itself. The operator pool takes care of itself. And right now, we're operating at something like a 2, and I was actually just talking to Tom, we're actually up to like more of like a 4-to-1 bid to op ratio here in Pittsburgh right now. Just for comparison, I wanted to bring up Detroit. So Detroit is about 2 years old. They've got 30 active businesses. They've got 24,000 active operators within 50 miles of downtown Detroit. And they've got an 8-to-1 bid to op ratio. So that's what a more mature market looks like. If you looked at maybe some of our most mature, like Atlanta, we have over 100,000 operators. I mean, the number of people that want to work in this capacity is large, but it does take a metro a little bit of time to kind of get up to full speed. Do you want to add anything on that point, Tom?
Yeah, just a little more on the Pittsburgh market in general. So when we started, again, didn't have a ton of active users. We have 2 active businesses right now that are consistently posting out, bringing people in, and right now, without us doing anything, we're gaining 1 operator per day available to work, and then that's going up. Obviously, we've seen a big spike since work has actually started to come into the app, but us, without doing any outreach or anything like that, we're gaining 1 person a day, and the businesses that we have going are now being very consistent with who they're bringing in, while also bringing in the operators that are joining around their business. So again, you're looking at the map, and this is like a big thing that you can do as you see who bids. You can see where they're located, and you can obviously see their history and everything else that Wes covered. And location's a big factor, especially depending on some areas. It's Pittsburgh, it's bridges or tunnels. Do I have to go through a bridge, or do I have to, or do I have to go through a tunnel? It's people try and avoid it. So that's the first business that I pulled up. They're up there in Leedsdale, and that was the first thing, is they were trying to get people on the right side of the Swickley Bridge and stuff like that. So it's things that you can add in, and you can be a lot more customizable. There's a lot more information to be able to look, and then as you grow and grow that labor pool, those things slowly fade off once you build your labor pool and gain that trust. But as you're ramping up, there's a lot of cool and interesting things you can do to be able to see the operators as you're building them up. So, and yeah, we're at right now. If we post, the businesses post about over 24 hours in advance, we're seeing 4 to 5 bids per op. And our biggest business right now has 5 people in their labor pool. And again, from what Wes said, all the different types of operators, 2 of them are, there are a couple that lives out near the airport, and they commute into Leedsdale, and they drive in together, and it's they work Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays because they have a different job from Wednesday and Thursday and the weekends that they have to do. So you never really know what people's exact schedules are like, but they come in, they work, and then they're great employees, and they've been working since day one with us. So it's you never know exactly how the operators are going to fit, but when you find them and when you find them when they work, we've seen it in Pittsburgh, and it's just continuing to grow here. Sorry, I'm seeing questions roll in here.
Yeah, somebody asked for a reference. So it'd be helpful for us to know. So proximity is helpful. Obviously finding somebody in Pittsburgh, but also, it'd be useful to know what industry you're in, what type of operation you're running, so we could potentially connect you with a company that's similar in scope. But we do that. We try and make that happen whenever a company asks to talk to somebody. Try and find somebody similar they can talk to. One example I want to bring up is a company called Nordic Tool. So they're located in Detroit. Actually, Romulus. They've got a 52,000 square foot stamping plant. Right. So doing a variety of things, but all stamping related. They began using us in February of 22. To address weekly and daily demand fluctuations. And you can see what this looks like in 2023 so far. So on that chart on the bottom, on the x-axis, you can see each of those numbers is a week. On the y-axis, you can see the number of hours that they are gaining per week. So you can see if they were to staff to an average, if they were to staff to their average labor capacity, it'd be that orange line right there. But instead, they're able to ramp up and down as needed through us. In the process, just this year so far, they've avoided $56,000 and avoided overtime and overstaffing. They've gained over 16,000 hours of labor. They've got a 97% attendance rate. They're averaging 8 bids per op, and this is all paying $15 an hour. They're not having to pay some astronomical amount to get people in the door with this flexibility. They've got 71 operators in their YLP, and they're predominantly utilizing their YLP. That's why they've got that 97% attendance rate. And out of each of the operators that has worked over the past year, the average number of times that each of those operators has worked at Nordic Tool is 35 times. So that gives you, some of them, 8 operators have worked over 100 times at Nordic Tool over the last year. But the average is 35. So it gives you some idea of kind of the rotation that they've got going. Let's see. Yeah, so questions about demographics. So we do have, so basically our metrics fly in the face of everything else in terms of manufacturing and logistics workforce. It's slight majority, but majority female. It skews younger on average than the rest of the population. I forget the exact stat, but it's something like 80% are under the age of 45 on our platform. And the majority are also ethnic minorities as well. So it is kind of the opposite of everything else in the traditional manufacturing logistics workspace. Let's see, assembly work. Yeah, so a little bit of everything. We've yeah, I'm sure we can find some comparable companies to connect you to speak with. Yeah, and transportation, no. So transportation is typically not an issue. Again, when they are bidding on these ops, they are coming at this almost kind of like a small business owner themselves, right? They are only going to get ops in the future based on their reputation and performance on previous ops, because we have, on average, let's say if you're Nordic Tool and you're getting an average of 8 bids per op, you're going to take that best person out of the 8, and the other 7 are going to get turned away. Which means if you're a no call, no show, if you bid on an op, you get accepted, and then you can't make transportation work or whatever else work, that's going to impact your reliability score. That's going to impact your rating score, and that means you're probably never going to be the top 1 out of 8 on them again, right? So that's where you get situations where people are going to underbid, maybe to entice a company to give them a second shot, but it very quickly kind of stratifies the workforce, and you can kind of skim that cream off the top and get people that have the transportation they need, have the work ethic you want, have the skills you need, and you can kind of focus on them. And then the last thing I want to touch on is just kind of what a pilot typically looks like. So again, each company is different. Each ideal implementation is a little bit different. That's why Tom is sitting there in Pittsburgh, is because, if we just tried to roll this out from Dallas from a distance, we wouldn't be able to go in to your facility with you, walk the floor, and help you strategize what the best way to implement this tool is within your operations. We think that's critical. And so we typically take, the first 1 to 2 weeks with a company to kind of map that out, to run some tests, to run some test ops, kind of work through, any friction points, figure out what the best process is. And then we'll start what we call the ramp phase. So the ramp phase is that first, 4 to 6 weeks that a company is really, really focused on building out the labor pool. So, if you get 5 people you really like on Saturday, on Monday, the temptation is going to be to want those 5 people back. And we're going to tell you, well, this is the ramp. We're focused on building out your YLP. So let's bring 5 people you've never had in before. Figure out the ones you like, section them out. On Tuesday, bring in a new 5. On Wednesday, bring in a new 5. So the ramp period is really just focused on building out that YLP. And then, week 7 plus is really when you're deploying that YLP to move towards your ultimate, steady state goal. What is, really moving towards optimal use, focused on only utilizing your YLP to accomplish that goal. Yeah, so the way the money works, so from an operator's perspective, they're bidding on that op. They'll get, once they get selected, they come in, they do the work. We pay all of the operators the very next day. So there's a little bit of a gap there, a buffer, so that if, let's say, somebody worked more or less than what was originally anticipated, the company can go in and make that adjustment so they get paid the appropriate amount. If there were a no-show, for example, they can dispute it so that person doesn't get paid and the company doesn't get charged. But by and large, that operator is going to get paid the very next day. What we do then is at the end of every week, we tally up everything that a company utilized in labor spend the previous week. So we're going to tally up all of those agreed upon amounts that we fronted to the operators. We're going to charge the company that amount plus 30%. That's where we make our money, is in that 30%. So it's a completely variable cost structure, which means if you use 0 operators in the next week, you get charged $0. If, this wouldn't happen, but let's say you had nobody show up an entire week, you're still charged $0 at the end of the day. So it's a purely pay-as-you-go system, completely incremental cost structure. And that 30%, again, that you can kind of think that as like kind of your fully burdened rate with these workers. So that $15 an hour you're paying to the worker is, typically you'd have to pay workers' comp, you'd have to pay taxes and all that. We take care of everything, all that administrative component. We issue all their tax documents at the end of the year. And again, we've got that insurance covered. So that's one of the reasons the operators like this as well, is they get that next day pay. Car breaks down, Christmas is coming up, they need to pick up some extra shifts, go out and work some more. This gives them the ability to make that money quick. And at the same time, give the companies flexibility as well. All right. I know I covered a lot. Are there any other questions? Oh. one.
Yeah, it looks like they're asking if
Yep.
there's
Yeah.
any barriers to hiring them on full time, pretty much.
Yeah. So
you can take it, Wes.
yeah. Sorry. So the way I typically answer this is, so one, no, there's no barriers at all. We're not a staffing company. We don't get in the way. If you and an operator decide that full-time employment is the way to go, by all means, go forth and prosper. However, a couple of things we would bring to light is, one, again, this isn't the same workforce that you're typically engaging, right? So most of the time they're on our platform because they want the flexibility. If they wanted a full-time job, likely they would have already gone out and gotten a full-time job. And odds are they actually probably already have a full-time job and they're using us on the side. But also, it's kind of like asking your Uber driver to be your full-time chauffeur, right? On the one hand, they probably don't want to because they're using it as a side gig, or they want the flexibility. They probably won't want to do that. But on the other hand, why would you want to do that, right? You know, why would you want to pay for an Uber driver all the time when you could have the choice to pay for them only when you actually needed them? You know, it's cheaper and more cost effective to do it that way. I will say it does happen sometimes. It's not super common. And where we typically see it happen is in a couple instances, either A, where we've got a student, right? Somebody who's planning on going for a full-time job, but they need to work around a school schedule or something like that. And so they'll use us for a year or two while they're in school. And then when they graduate, they'll go get that full-time job. And so in that sense, it's a great opportunity for companies to kind of get their hooks in somebody early, right? To test them out, to bring them up in their processes and their operations. And then when they graduate with that higher skill set, bump them into a position that makes sense for them. And the other instance where we see it happen is when we've got an operator that, let's say, has 500 ops under their belt, a 99% reliability, they're, you know, solid individual, and a company comes in and offers them a management position, right? Something where the title and the pay is strong enough to warrant them giving up that flexibility of operating off of the app. Those are the two instances where I'd say we see it the most, but again, it's not super frequent. Yeah, so retirees, there's definitely a strong use case for retirees, and we have seen, I've been at this company 2 years, and over the past 2 years, I have seen that average age of our operators steadily creeping up as more and more retirees engage. It's also a great opportunity for companies that have retirees. So if you've got somebody that's been with you for 20 or 30 years, they've got all of this knowledge that's going to be really hard for you to replace when they walk out the door. This is a great opportunity for you to sit them down. You know, thank you for your time here. By the way, if you ever want to come back, download this app onto your phone. We're going to post out ops. We're going to, if you download the app, you can tag people in our system, so you can segment your labor pool, and you can segment them by training level. You can segment them any way you want, but you can segment a portion of your labor pool to retirees, and we can post out ops only to retirees, right? And so you can give you a chance to retain some of that talent. Because as you folks know, like most people that retire, most of them want the flexibility. That's really what they're looking for. A lot of them would still like to be engaged, like to work in some capacity, just maybe not nearly as much, or maybe have the ability to, you know, to have that flexibility to pick and choose when and where they work. And so in that sense, this app is perfect for them. Also, I would say too, we're all across, you know, the Eastern Seaboard. So let's say somebody wants to spend half their year in Pittsburgh and half their year in Florida. The app gives them the ability to work through our app at companies in both locations, right? You don't have to be tied to one spot. So we are in Maryland. Yeah, we launched our DC office that covers both Maryland and the upper half of Virginia. We launched that probably a year and a half ago or so.
So any other questions? If not, look, Wes, Tom, thank you for your time today. I mean, this is very informative. And as I mentioned previously, you know, the gig economy is not going away. In fact, it's just expanding upon itself right now. And this provides a unique opportunity for manufacturers to stop becoming the victim of the gig economy and start to embrace it and giving the platform a try. It starts with getting some of your positions posted, and that's what will help to grow the number of operators in the region. So it's sort of like the chicken and egg, but it doesn't take long, as Wes pointed out, that once we start getting the opportunities posted on the site, that we start adding more and more operators into the system looking for opportunities. So again, gentlemen, I thank you for your time today. It was very informative, and we're really excited to have Veryable part of the manufacturing community here in southwestern Pennsylvania.
Thank you, man. Thank you for everyone else that joined as well. Really appreciate you guys giving us the time today. Look forward to working with you.